government under both Republicans and Democrats have failed to secure America's borders. Georgians are paying for that failure with jobs and taxes and public safety. If Congress won't enforce the law, as governor, I will. When I was President Pro Tem of the State Senate in 2005, we passed what was at the time the toughest illegal immigration law in the country. We required individuals to show proof of citizenship in order to receive any type of government benefit. We required local governments and state contractors to certify that they only hire legal workers. We also restricted the abilities of businesses to profit off of illegal immigrants by denying them the right to deduct their payroll as business deduction. And like Arizona, if our police stop individuals for certain crimes, they must ask for proof of citizenship and report them to ICE if they are not legally here. We set the standard at the time, and many states, including Arizona, used our law as a model, and they've adopted similar laws. Since that time, it has become clear that for various reasons, our law is not always being enforced. As governor, I will enforce the laws we have on the books, and I will expand the ability and the funding required to do so. First, to give local law enforcement the tools they need, I will incentivize them to participate in 2 successful programs by increasing the per diems that the state provides to counties to pay for prisoners in their jails. The 287G program trains state and local law enforcement to be immigration officials in essence, and so far only a handful of counties in Georgia are participating. Secure Communities is another program that allows local law enforcement and state law enforcement to link up to the Department of Homeland Security and Department of Justice's fingernail database and determine people's legal status. These 2 programs will give us the ability to identify illegal immigrants that have committed a crime, turn them over to ICE for deportation and get them out of our taxpayer-funded prison system. Second, in addition to enforcing current laws, we can deter illegal immigrants from residing in Georgia by cutting off the 2 reasons that they come here: jobs and taxpayer-funded services. As I outlined earlier, the 2005 law required citizenship verification by all state agencies, including the Board of Regents and the technical colleges of Georgia. However, these 2 agencies were given latitude to establish their own verification procedure. They have not followed through with a strong policy, so I will bring them under the same law that applies to all other agencies in Georgia. The logic behind citizenship verification for higher education should apply to all levels of education, including our public schools. The taxpayer is funding a student that is in our state illegally. In 1982, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Plyer v. Doe that states must educate children regardless of their immigration status. That ruling is the current law of the land, and it will be followed. However, there are no restrictions on local school systems asking for proof of citizenship during the enrollment process. Plyer v. Doe is a 5-4 decision. The state of Texas had imposed a tuition on illegal immigrants, and the United States Supreme Court in a 5-4 decision overturned that law. And one of the main reasons they overturned it was because Texas could not produce sufficient data to demonstrate the cost burden on Texas taxpayers. Simply put, we cannot change what we cannot measure. As governor, we will account for the burden on our federal government's irresponsible open borders policy is placing on our state. When the state is furloughing teachers and increasing class sizes, it has come to a point where we have to say enough is enough. It's time to build a case to the federal government that they must secure the border. Another federal requirement that burdens taxpayers and law-abiding Georgians is emergency health care. We are a compassionate society, and I am in no way advocating denial of care. However, we all know that the federal government's failure to keep illegal immigrants out of our country ends up costing us in the emergency room where health care is free for them, whether it is truly an emergency or not. So as governor, I'll work with public and private hospitals to determine a citizenship verification process for those that show up in our emergency rooms. That's costing our taxpayers, and it's costing all of our health insurance premiums to be higher. Third, there's been a lot of talk about the Arizona law, and unlike some critics, I've actually read that law. It was based on the law that we passed in 2005, but they have had some time to find some improvements. And there is one improvement that struck me as a common sense proposal to help protect the jobs in Georgia from those that are being grabbed by illegal immigrants. The Legal Arizona Workers Act penalizes businesses who fail to comply with worker eligibility requirements by permanently revoking their business licenses after a second failure. I believe we should make that the law of Georgia also. As governor, I will enforce the law. I will protect the taxpayers. I will hold the federal government accountable, and I will protect the jobs of American citizens and legal Georgia residents. Thank you, and I'll take questions.